Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
It stopped. If the pain stopped, Paul rasped. Elizabeth snapped out of her daze at his voice. Clara's expression darkened. Neo was dead. The curse binding Paul had vanished, which meant it wasn't a curse at all. He tricked us. Rage flared, but Clara forced it down. Elizabeth's curse had lifted only moments ago. If she moved now, she could finish the queen. The floating weapons around the chamber reconfigured, sights locking onto Elizabeth, then detonated midair with a thunderclap. The shockwave hit like a charging beast. Clara's body blasted backward, scything through wall after wall. "Did Neo stop you too by himself?" Elizabeth asked, voice flat. Paul still shook with residual agony, unable to form words. I asked a question. An invisible weight slammed him to the floor. The pressure climbed, slowly, inexorably. Marble tiles spiderwebbed under him. KRK. "Speak," Elizabeth said. No warmth. No mercy. He said. "He'd kill us if we didn't save you." Paul choked. "How could Neo, an awakened demigod, threaten you and Clara? You two are far stronger," the Tyrant Queen replied, eyes like winter steel. "Tell me everything. Leave nothing out." Clara burst back into the hall in a surge of silver light, armor locking over her body, spear in hand, and crumpled the instant she crossed the threshold, crushed beside Paul under the same remorseless gravity. Horror drained Paul's face. If even Clara couldn't move. Word spilled out. He confessed to everything. How they'd killed Neo, the lie about the purge, Neo's impossible revival, the bluff that made them believe he wielded curses. Elizabeth's gaze softened as she knelt and stroked Neo's hair. He'd bluffed strength he didn't possess. In truth, he was terribly weak. Amelia had told her, even walking left him breathless. Yet he'd wagered his life for her not once, but twice. Whatever his reasons, it didn't matter. When all others sharpened knives for her back, he alone stood between her and death. Without him, she would have died and would have carried the blame herself. "I owe you," she whispered, a debt no life could balance. He'd given us twice. She rose. "Leave," she said without looking at Paul and Clara. "I never want to see you again." A heartbeat later, a blast hurled them out of the palace. It wouldn't kill them, but it would take months to heal. I still couldn't do it, Elizabeth realized, a single tear slipping free. What is this? I'm crying too much today." She wiped her eyes and looked down at Neo's still form. He was wrong. Even if he were immortal, which she doubted, he treated his life like a coin to be spent. True immortality did not exist, not even for exalted demigods. There were artifacts and arts that skirted death, but every path demanded a price beyond measure. Death was impartial. Exalted demigods were children before it. What price did you pay, Neo? What kind of life did you live to die? Twice without hesitation. "Mom!" Amelia appeared through the shattered wall, followed by several of the Queen's personal guards. "What happened?" "I saw Sis and Paul were." The guards exploded into red mist. Amelia froze. "Why did you come back?" "You should have evacuated," Elizabeth said, beckoning. "Come here." I couldn't leave you." But she didn't move. The Queen had just butchered her own guards. Had Mother lost control? Amelia's eyes caught on Elizabeth's bare forearms. The crawling purple veins were gone. "The curse? It's cured." Amelia's eyes went wide. She flung herself forward and wrapped her arms around Elizabeth, sobs shaking her. How?" Neo forced the caster to transfer the curse to him. Elizabeth said softly, "He died in my place." Shock blanked Amelia's face. She'd thought Neo ran because he couldn't cure the Queen. "Will he revive?" "He said he was immortal." "Yes, I think so, but there's a cool down of some sort." Her analysis was calm, precise, what anyone would expect from an exalted demigod. If Neo had heard it, he might have laughed and praised her acuity. A tiny smile lifted Amelia's lips. "I need to thank Brother Paul and Sister Clara. If I hadn't found Neo, you would have hick. They didn't bring Neo to me," Elizabeth said, patting her back. "Neo brought them." "Huh." Amelia blinked. Neo brought them? He needed the curse caster to transfer the curse. Elizabeth continued. The implication struck like a bolt. Amelia understood the words, but her heart refused them. Clara can use curses. The world tilted. Amelia went still as Elizabeth laid out the whole truth. And no, that's impossible. Neo, he must have tricked you. Amelia, there's no way Paul and Clara would try to kill you. Amelia, there's no way hick. No matter how desperately Amelia tried to deny it, the truth stood merciless before her eyes. Neo was dead. Clara had transferred the curse into him, and her mother had punished Paul and Clara for their betrayal. Hours passed. Amelia's tears dried. She clung to her mother in silence, motionless, until at last she whispered, "I hate it." Elizabeth glanced down at her daughter. "I hate Paul and Clara. I hate this country. I hate everyone who tried to kill you." Amelia's words dripped venom, raw malice stirring in her chest. "Stop," Elizabeth said firmly. "There is no need for revenge. But I don't love this country anymore either. So we'll leave." Amelia nodded, though hatred still burned. She wanted vengeance. No, she wanted them all to suffer. But she was weak. Her mother alone had the strength to punish the rebels, and Elizabeth refused. So Amelia buried her rage deep, swearing she would return when she was strong enough to crush them all. "When do we leave? And what about the world powers? If you step down without reason, they'll never accept it." Elizabeth's eyes hardened. "That's why the tyrant queen must die today." "What? Follow me." Elizabeth staggered to her feet, Amelia rushing to support her. With a flick of her fingers, Neo's body floated behind. "We can't leave him. It seems he resurrects in the same vessel." A secret passage yawned open in the wall. They slipped through and emerged on a lonely hill, overlooking the castle and capital of the mermaid country. Elizabeth raised a trembling arm, blood dribbling from her lips. The queen went mad. She destroyed everything and perished in the chaos. Her hand dropped. Far away, the Azure Spire Palace collapsed like a child's toy kicked over, the ground heaving and reshaping under her will. The city shook, but most of the destruction was contained to the palace grounds. With this, the queen is dead. Elizabeth doubled over, blood spraying from her mouth. "Mom, don't worry. Just overexerted." She sank to the grass, eyelids heavy. As her vision blurred, she looked at Neo's body. Hours had passed, yet he still hadn't revived. "Why?" Underworld. Neo wiped sweat from his brow, panting amid a field of Gulwak corpses. "Splendid work, O great child of Monarch," intoned the Grim Reaper. "You may rest now." Neo collapsed on his back, every muscle slack with relief. His time in the underworld was almost up. Quest. Save the queen completed. Reward. Water affinity awakened. Immortal EXP plus 50. Status. Neo Hargraves. Rank. Grade 5 awakened. Divine Energy Purity. Grade 1. Strength. 20 Speed. 21 Dexterity. 17 Constitution. 14 Luck. 0. Affinity. Death. Shadow. Darkness. Void. Water. Magic Spell. Necrotic Touch. Bloodline. Monarch of Death. Unique Skills. Death Immortal. Quest None. He'd gained only +1 strength this time, but even that made him grin. Progress was progress. Immortal EXP. 51 out of 100. Not bad, but still too slow. Could he increase the intensity to grow faster? "Oh, great child of Monarch," the Grim Reaper's voice cut in. "We have a proposition. Will you hear it?" Neo blinked. This was the first time the Reaper had initiated talk. "Speak. You have only crawled. Now you must walk. Allow us to train you." Neo frowned. Fighting hordes of Gulwaks counted as crawling? What kind of hellish training did they mean? Still, all right, a decision he knew he would regret. But opportunity outweighed fear. Demigod Academy loomed ahead, crawling with heirs who'd trained since birth. He had only days of experience. To survive, he needed everything. A new quest appeared. Quest. Complete training of the Grim Reaper, Barbados, Part 1. Reward. Holy Affinity. Neo's heart skipped. Holy Affinity? Against my death affinity? That's busted. But why him? Death and holy were opposites. Unless, my mother? Could she have been someone with strong holy blood? Persephone, maybe? He laughed at the absurd thought. If I were their child, I wouldn't be just a demigod. It didn't matter. Power was power. I'll look forward to it, Neo said. We wish you a happy life. O great child of monarch. The words of Death's herald always made him smile. An angel of death wishing him happiness. Irony itself. He activated immortal. Darkness swallowed him. His soul was yanked upward, like swimming against a raging current. When he opened his eyes again, he lay on grass, divine energy pouring into his broken body to heal wounds. Damn, I need to die with fewer injuries. The cost to revive is brutal. His vision cleared. Amelia sat straddling him, frozen, hands gripping his shirt half unbuttoned. Neo blinked. She blinked back. I can explain, she stammered, face crimson. Neo stared at her, then sighed. Sorry, I didn't know you were into necrophilia. Had I known, I would have. Had I known about it, I would have. I told you it is a misunderstanding. Amelia stood up and moved away. She couldn't decide if she should feel insulted, angry, or embarrassed. Your clothes were ruined. I didn't want to leave you looking like that, and you were taking too long to revive, so I decided to sneak a peek. No, as I said, it's a misunderstanding. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Amelia's ears turned beet red. Her reactions were funny. He wanted to tease her more, but he felt windy down there. Neo looked at his clothes. Calling them ruined was underplaying it. They had more holes than a pampered kid's wallet. I'll take the clothes you prepared, he said. Thanks. He changed into the new set of attire prepared by Amelia. While he was changing, Amelia turned away. Thank you for helping us, she spoke solemnly. Don't mind it. I didn't do it for free. Silence descended. Both of them said nothing. Neo was trying to think of his future plans. He didn't bother initiating a conversation. The quietness bothered Amelia, and she spoke. Are you really immortal? Yes. Is that even possible? We were taught something else at the academy. Only now did Neo remember Amelia was a second year at Demigod Academy. In the novel, she left the academy since she had to take over the throne after her mother's death. Demigod Academy? Yeah. The professors taught us things about the great death god, Hades. He didn't seem to be a god who'd let even his children cheat death. Things, huh? Neo didn't bother asking about details. He knew exactly how Hades was treated among the demigods and gods. They feared his powers, and no one truly respected him. The only reason Hades was one of the three great gods was due to his overwhelming strength. You are awake. Mom. Elizabeth returned. She stared at Neo silently. He returned her gaze. Why are you two looking at each other like that? Amelia stepped in between them. Nothing, Elizabeth answered. We should go. I've completed the preparations. She gave a bag to Amelia. The three moved down from the hill and went in the direction of the beach. They traveled through forests by foot to make sure no one found them. It took them a few hours to reach their destination. Both Elizabeth and Neo were exhausted by the end. Should we rest? Amelia asked. We haven't had dinner yet either. We can take a break later. Let's eat while we are moving, Neo spoke. Elizabeth agreed with him. She whistled after standing at the seashore. Unlike Amelia's azure dragon that swam in the sea, Elizabeth's came from the sky. The clouds parted upon its arrival. The moonlight fell through the gaps, and the azure sea dragon descended gracefully. It had silver scales instead of blue scales, and was at least 5 times larger than the previous dragon Neo met. The dragon made a pleasing grunt when it saw Elizabeth and Amelia, and allowed them to caress its body. You can touch him, Amelia told Neo. Just as Neo was about to place his hand on the silver scales of the dragon, it snorted, and an invisible force pushed Neo back. Neo heard Amelia giggling beside him. Jerna doesn't like anyone besides us touching him. Amelia smirked and rubbed the dragon's belly to brag. Neo looked back at the dragon. For some reason, he could tell by looking at the dragon's eyes that if he tried to touch it again, it would crush him. He is my benefactor, Jerna. Don't treat him like that, Elizabeth said. The dragon's eyes widened. It looked at Elizabeth as if questioning the authenticity of her statement. Then, Realizing her words were true, it looked at Neo and gave him a lick with a happy grunt. It lowered its head, allowing him to pat its head. Now allowed to touch the dragon, Neo turned to Amelia with a smirk. She clicked her tongue and turned away. After they climbed the dragon, Elizabeth commanded it to leave. The dragon took off into the skies. It went above the cloud of seas and flew freely in the air. The journey was uneventful. They passed over the clouds and the hurricanes, so there wasn't much to see. After they left the waters of Mermaid Country, Neo finally relaxed. "Where are we going?" he asked. "Amelia will return to the Demigod Academy. As for me, I'm still not sure about it." "What about you?" Elizabeth said. "Where should we drop you?" Neo made a deliberate pause to make it look like he was uncertain. "I have to go to the academy, too." Amelia and Elizabeth didn't appear surprised for some reason. "But how about we go to the Divine Water Cave first? It would help us speed up our recovery." "Good idea. I'll give you the things you asked for there." Elizabeth agreed to his suggestion. "Wait, what?" Suddenly, Amelia looked at them wide-eyed. "What are you going to give him?" "I'm not letting you marry him." Elizabeth shook her head and spoke with a sorrowful voice. "But that was the deal. How can I, Elizabeth de Beaufort, turn back on my words?" Despite her expressionless face, Neo could see mischief hidden in her eyes. He could understand why she was teasing Amelia. Her reactions were just too cute. The banter between the mother and the daughter continued until they reached the Divine Water Cave. Before the dragon dived into the seawater, Neo's brows furrowed. He forgot to bring his diving gear. A smirk appeared on Amelia's face. "What happened?" "Can't breathe underwater, Mr. Exalted Demigod." Neo shrugged. He didn't feel bad about tricking her back then. After all, it was a matter of life and death for him. "Stay close to me." Elizabeth created a sphere of air before the dragon dove into the sea. The air bubble allowed him to breathe. They floated towards the underwater cave's entrance. "I'll enter first. Follow behind me," Elizabeth said, and changed the shape of the air bubble to cover only Neo. Just as she swam in between the coral reefs, a problem appeared. Her chest was stuck in the narrow entrance. Just as she swam in between the coral reefs, a problem appeared. Her chest was stuck in the narrow entrance. Neo and Amelia stared at her with awkward gazes. Turning his head, Neo subconsciously compared Elizabeth with Amelia. There is room for a lot of development. He shook his head in disappointment. It seemed Amelia failed to inherit good qualities from her mother. Or maybe Amelia took after her birth mother? Neo wouldn't know since he never met Elizabeth's twin sister. "Mom, do you need help?" A pulse of wave passed through the undersea, and suddenly the seabed was ripped apart for miles. Elizabeth, after changing the underwater landscape, turned to them. "Amelia is claustrophobic, so I enlarged the entrance. It shouldn't be uncomfortable anymore." "Huh? I'm not Claus." "You are, sweetie. You just don't know, because you've never been in confined spaces." Her expressionless face was saying to never bring up the topic again. Neo would be lying if he said his eyes didn't wander to inappropriate places. He moved his gaze away before Elizabeth could catch him. It was already morning by the time they entered the underwater cave. Thankfully, the cave was not destroyed by Elizabeth's rampage. Amelia left the underwater cave after a short rest. They ran away from the mermaid country without bringing anything except food. So Amelia was going to buy the basic necessities from the city while Neo and Elizabeth used the divine water pond. "You can enter the pond first," Elizabeth told him. Neo didn't refuse. After making sure Elizabeth was looking in another direction, he removed his clothes and sat inside the divine water pond. He could feel his exhaustion disappearing. It was a good idea to listen to Elizabeth's advice. Just when he thought that, Elizabeth entered the pond. She had removed most of her clothes, leaving only the bare minimum. She must have entered the pond like that, because the rate of healing depends on the area of skin contact with divine water, he told himself. He would be lying if he said he was displeased by the situation. Elizabeth's slender white neck gave way to delicate shoulders, leading down to a perfectly proportioned bust. Her waist was narrow, accentuating the soft curves of her hips, which moved with a fluid grace. Every time she took a step, the twin mountains quivered ever so slightly. She had a sexy, and mature charm. Yet she looked graceful, like a Valkyrie who had descended on earth from heaven. You shouldn't stare so openly, Elizabeth told him with a teasing smile. I'm not the one who entered the pond after telling the other person they can use the pond first, he said. Elizabeth chuckled at his boldness. She looked below after breaking eye contact with him. Her eyes slightly widened. So that's why Amelia was surprised? Her voice was filled with astonishment. No wonder she was afraid after seeing this. Neo shrugged. Then he closed his eyes and sank into the pond, feeling relieved by its healing ability. Since he had grown stronger, he no longer needed to worry about exploding like an overcharged battery. After a few dozen minutes had passed, Elizabeth had healed to a good amount. She said, "Since we have time, I will teach you the Tremorank spell right now." Here. He opened his eyes. The divine water pond will help you replenish your divine energy quickly. This is a good place to learn the spell faster. Okay. Neo nodded. What should I do? Come here. Elizabeth beckoned him. He felt something was strange. Was he imagining it? Or was this a chance? Thinking again, Elizabeth might have had some intentions when she entered the pond with him. Neo looked at her again. She looked like someone who was in her early 20s, like a ripe fruit, yet she held an undeniable mature charm. Moreover, her children, Paul and Clara, were spellborn. So, isn't she the best then? Neo blinked. Only an idiot would say no to a perfect woman like Elizabeth. Just as he was about to speak, he felt a presence at the cave's entrance. What are you two doing? Amelia's icy voice rang. She stared at him and her mother with a cold, disgusted gaze. Seeing her, he clicked his tongue audibly, making sure she heard it. He got out of the pond, dried himself with a towel, and changed into fresh clothes. You took quite a bit of time to return, he said. Why you? She glared at him as if he was her mortal enemy, which wasn't exactly wrong considering he was trying to get steamy with her mother. Why were you naked with him, Mom? She turned to Elizabeth after she realized speaking to Neo was like shouting at a rock. I didn't want to ruin my clothes, Elizabeth answered with a calm, confident smile. But Neo noticed the red tip of her ears. She seemed embarrassed, caught by her daughter in an awkward moment. What do you mean? Amelia narrowed her eyes. We don't have money. If I ruined the clothes I had on me, I would have had nothing left to wear, she gave an excuse. Amelia's face stiffened. The excuse was so bad that she wondered if her mother was even trying to make an excuse. She turned her head and glared at Neo. As for the reward for saving me, she looked at Amelia, who had fallen asleep. I can't give it to you right now. You should know the reason, since you want the weapon. The replica of Poseidon's trident was a powerful weapon, but there were weapons stronger than it. The reason the trident was special was due to its immortal slayer trait. It could kill immortal beings like Neo. He didn't need the weapon because it was powerful. By taking it himself, he wanted to make sure nobody else got their hands on it. After all, when the news of him being Hades' kin and an immortal spreads, the world powers would mark him as a potentially dangerous demigod and look for methods to contain him in case he went berserk or rogue. It was not just him. A counter-strategy was created for every powerful demigod and demigods with powerful bloodlines. This was a necessary practice, because it wasn't just once or twice a demigod gave into the temptations of outer gods and switched sides. Don't worry, I won't break my promise. I'll give the weapon to you. It's currently sealed under Mount Columbus. I need time to break the seal. Since I have to visit the academy, I'll bring it to you there. Elizabeth had been prepared for her death. She made sure to hide a dangerous weapon like Poseidon's trident. It couldn't be allowed to fall in the wrong hands, or the damage would be catastrophic. I understand, Neo said. He couldn't wait to get it. They took another day of rest and left for the city. After arriving on a secluded part of Yokohama Beach, Amelia and Neo got off the dragon. I'll return after leaving Jerna somewhere safe, Elizabeth told them. You two go to the academy. We'll meet there. She was probably going to collect the trident. After she left, Neo and Amelia walked down the beach together. They remained silent. Neo stopped after an hour-long walk. He was sweating heavily and feeling tired. The whole event with the mermaid country took a lot out of him, and training a Tremorank spell after that broke the camel's back. Can we rest? He asked while he sat on the roadside bench. Amelia stared at him, and left without speaking anything. Was she going to the academy alone? Maybe I underestimated how angry she was with me. Neo smiled bitterly. It wasn't like he understood the reason behind her anger, but if he had another chance, he would do everything he was not able to do back then. 15 minutes later, when he was about to stand, Amelia returned. She passed him canned drink. "It's an energy drink," she told him. "It should help you." Did she leave to bring this? They were on a secluded road that ran next to the shore. Amelia must have gone quite far to buy the drink. Maybe his surprise showed on his face, because she said, "I'm not angry with you. I don't like what happened in the cave, and that's all. I can never hate you after all you did for Mom. I'm not that stupid." Her words were nice, but the way she repeatedly said she wasn't angry with him, yeah, he didn't believe her. Neo decided to watch his back during the nights, lest he got stabbed by her. "We should move." Neo's phone suddenly rang, and he couldn't complete his words. He took it out. The number was from an unknown caller. He might have ignored it under normal circumstances. But his phone did not have towers before they reached Oklahoma Beach. There was a slight chance the caller was someone who knew Neo Hargraves. "Let me pick this up," he told Amelia, and answered the call. The caller spoke. "What the fuck are you, you fucking cunt? Do you know?" Neo cut the call. "Who was it?" "Your family," Amelia asked. It was a misdialed number. He seems quite angry at whoever he was calling. The call arrived again from the same number. "Are you sure you don't know the number?" Amelia questioned. "I'll check." He picked the call. "Hello. Motherfucker. How the fuck did you dare cut the call? Do you have a death wish? Who is this? I'm sorry I don't recognize you." Suddenly, the caller went silent. He took a huge breath and exploded. "This fucking memory loss shit again? I swear you need to find more excuses, you fucking whore." "Wrong number." Neo hung up. The call did not come again. Amelia stared at Neo with a peculiar expression. The caller was so loud she could hear him even though the call wasn't on speaker. "There are all sorts of people in the world," she chuckled awkwardly. They were about to leave when suddenly the call returned. Neo ignored it. The call kept arriving. Once, twice, 10 times. Neo, irritated, answered the call to tell off the caller. "Neo, you fucking asshole. First, you apply to the academy without telling me. Then you disappear for weeks, and now you are ignoring my calls." He could imagine the veins exploding on the caller's neck. "I swear if you hang up on me this time, I'll fucking kill you. You know me? Don't break the phone again. Don't break the phone." The caller muttered some words that were too quiet for Neo to hear. "Sai, where are you, Neo?" Neo didn't answer immediately. The caller knew his name. Was he Neo's friend? However, it was weird that the caller's name was not saved on the smartphone. "Since he knows I'm going to the academy, we're going to meet one way or another," Neo thought. "But he sounds dangerous. It's best if I meet him after we've rendezvoused with Elizabeth. She can protect me if something goes wrong." Neo was about to hang up when suddenly he heard a second voice from the caller's side. "Sir, we've traced the call's location." Amelia's eyes widened. She snatched the phone from Neo's hand. Before she could break it, the caller began to laugh hysterically. "Neo, did you hear that?" The caller spoke in a low tone. "You're a fucking dead bitch. Who is this person? And don't you dare say you don't know him, because the caller definitely knew you." Amelia held his hand and dragged him away. They had to leave before the caller came to find them. "Can you contact your mother? We might need her help." Neo could only divert her question. He didn't know the caller's identity himself. "I can't. Since I stayed with you two all the time, I had no chance to buy a smartphone for her." It took them a few dozen minutes to find a taxi. They asked the taxi driver to take them to the Bullet train station. From there, they purchased a ticket for the station nearest to the academy. Oklahoma Beach was in Elyria country, and it was adjacent to the Brescia, where Demigod Academy was located. Thanks to the technology, travel time had been reduced by a lot, and since Neo and Amelia had ID cards of Demigod Academy, they could do international travel without things like visas. Neo noticed he was sweating heavily. It seemed to him that his body recognized the caller's voice and was afraid to meet him. As soon as they got off the Bullet train, they realized something was wrong. "Get ready to fight." "I know." The station was empty. The people on the train were being stopped from getting off. Who is it? Who has the power to evacuate a whole station in broad daylight? Thought Neo. They waited. But nothing happened. What should we do? Amelia asked. Waiting won't change anything. Let's try to leave the station, Neo said. As they walked, they noticed that the staff members were also missing. The station looked like a ghost town. Suddenly, Neo felt a presence. He signaled Amelia towards the man at the station's entrance. The man, a blonde, had a scar that ran from his right eye to his lower jaw. He was extremely handsome. He wore a black suit and puffed smoke. You are 2 minutes late. Do you understand you just wasted my 2 million? The man said. The voice matched the caller. Neo recognized the identity of the man from the scar. First Elizabeth, and now him? Why am I getting entangled with these types of people? He thought worriedly. Get in the car. The man threw the cigarette before sitting inside the car parked at the entrance. Amelia raised her bow. We should fight. He doesn't seem strong, so. No, let's listen to him. Neo told her with a dry throat. The man, Henry Hargraves, was as dangerous as Elizabeth, perhaps even more. Henry Hargraves? The same Hargraves as Neo Hargraves? Brother? Neo asked cautiously. Henry lowered the window and gave him a stare. What? Did you get your memory back? Henry scoffed and opened another cigarette. Amelia visibly relaxed after knowing he was Neo's brother. She wanted to ask why Neo had been acting as if he didn't know him, but judging from Neo's expression, she felt there might be bad blood between them, and thus decided to remain silent. Should we enter the car? She asked. Yeah. Amelia and Neo sat in the back seat while Henry drove the car. The car moved through the busy road for dozens of minutes. Henry and Neo did not talk at all. The silence was unnerving for Amelia. Just when she felt something was wrong, they stopped at a red light, and Henry looked in the mirror. Did you go to the mermaid country? Yes. He didn't lie. Given the resources at Henry's disposal, he must have already been aware of what Neo had been doing for the past few days. TCH, you look famished, fucker. Did you fucking eat something or not? Henry took a puff of smoke. And why is that bitch's daughter with you? Amelia reacted when he insulted her mother, but Neo stopped her by placing his hand over hers. Don't move. Please don't move. Neo tried to tell her with his eyes. Henry and Elizabeth had bad blood between them. In the novel, he hated Amelia because he couldn't kill Elizabeth with his own hands, and thus wanted to kill her in her mother's place. After Henry went rogue in the novel, the first harem member he killed was Amelia. Henry continued to talk. Anyway, why did you go to the mermaid country? To heal the queen. There was no point in lying. Henry could find the information easily with his contacts. Fucking shithead. Won't you try to deny the responsibility like you always do? Henry threw the cigarette, but from the window, and pulled out another from the pack. He took a puff. Fuck. I couldn't even sleep because of you, fucker. What do you mean? Ha ha, look at this dickhead. Do you seriously not know what is happening? Henry saw Neo's frown and Amelia's confused expression. You really don't know? Wow, fuck. He pulled out a newspaper from the car's footwell and threw it at Neo. Neo, read the headlines. Those fucking fishes said you had a hand in the bitch's death and you kidnapped her daughter. Congratulations, fucker. You are an internationally wanted criminal. Senior Templars are already after your ass. What? That's a lie. He didn't do anything wrong. He is the one who saved you. Ouch. Neo pinched Amelia's hand before she revealed Elizabeth was alive. She looked at him with confused eyes. He shook his head and looked at Henry. I hope you took care of the issue. Of course. There's no way I'd let those damned fuckers harm my little fucking shit of a brother. The red light turned green. Henry stopped speaking and focused on driving. Who is your brother? Amelia whispered. Is he an exalted demigod? How can he stop Senior Templars and talk like it was nothing? No, he is a normal person. Henry was not able to awaken his god blood. Then how? Amelia asked. He is rich. Filthy rich. Amelia closed her mouth and looked at him as if she couldn't believe her ears. However, he wasn't lying. Wealth was just another form of strength. The car stopped in front of a high-end restaurant. Henry got off. Bitch, come out. I can't stand anymore looking at a starved fish like you. We are going to stuff you until you explode. While Amelia and Neo followed Henry into the restaurant, she leaned towards him and whispered, He loves you despite how he acts, doesn't he? She giggled. I know what they call people like him. Sundara. Neo gulped as he noticed her impression of his brother improving. Henry certainly loved his brother. When Henry's brother mysteriously passed away in the novel, he believed his brother died in the Academy's ranking competition and turned against the Academy. In later stages, Henry razed half of the continent to the ground and killed the majority of the characters and harem members. Henry did all of this because he wanted to avenge his brother. And Neo wasn't his brother. I'm fucked if he finds out I took over his brother's body. Neo didn't like taking over Neo Hargrave's body and living while tricking his family. However, he had no intention of revealing his identity. Neo was a victim too. He never asked to possess someone else's body. He just woke up one day and found he'd become Neo Hargraves. "Eat, bitch," Henry said. They sat at a table filled with lavish food. Neo did not touch the food immediately. "Aren't you curious how I thought I could save the queen?" "I am," Henry answered. "But we can talk after you aren't hungry anymore." Neo chewed the food with slow, graceful movements. It was awkward. He was trying his best to imitate what he thought was Neo Hargrave's behavior. This must be how rich people ate. "Why the fuck are you eating so slowly? Did you hit your head? Or are you trying to look cool because of that bitch's daughter next to you?" Apparently, Neo Hargraves was different from his imagination. Neo let go of the weird way he was eating and started to eat normally. He looked at Amelia. "Don't sit there and stare at me. That asshole just said, 'Eat,'" he told her. Neo peeked at his brother. Even though he called him asshole, he did not react. As expected, these guys talk like this, he thought. "How did you stop Mermaid Country from coming after Neo?" Amelia asked after she chewed. They must have sent someone after him if they released the news about him. It did not look like Henry had any plan of answering her. But he spoke when he noticed Neo staring at him curiously. "I asked them for proof and told them to stop if they had no proper justification." Henry added, "They refused, of course. So I told them I'd nuke their country if they don't stop." I forgot that. They don't have mom's protection anymore. Mermaid Country is now easy to threaten. Now, Henry clicked his tongue. "I don't fear that bitch. Rather, I wanted to kill her myself. Do you know how much money I lost because of her?" Amelia was ticked off by the repeated insults. She didn't stop even after seeing Neo's signal. "Isn't that too much to say? I don't like how you—" "Bitch, stop talking. Don't think you were safe. Depending on Neo's answer, I might kill you right here, right now." She closed her mouth abruptly. The previous favorable impression of Henry was overturned in her mind. Henry ignored her glare and turned to Neo. "Since you've finished eating, tell me. What happened?" "I awakened my god blood," Neo answered. "My skill could save the queen, and I approached Amelia." He hid the existence of the divine water pond. If Henry knew about it, he might ask Neo what he did with it. That would definitely lead to Elizabeth and Henry's meeting. Neo felt a shiver crawl up his spine. He had to stop these two lunatics from meeting each other. They were enemies, and they would definitely fight over the divine water pond. "What's your skill?" Henry asked. "What is it, fucker? Don't you dare say you forgot. I haven't forgiven you for registering into Demigod Academy. I'm immortal." Henry blinked. It took him a moment to understand Neo's words. "You try to transfer that bitch's curse to yourself." Henry smashed his fist into the table and glared at Neo. Amelia didn't feel afraid, but Neo was alerted. Because he knew Henry's hidden identity. He wasn't just rich like he had told the world. "You fucking bitch. What would have happened if you died? Did you forget our promise to Mom and Dad?" Henry grabbed Neo's collar. "Tell me, why did you put your life on the line? If you don't have a good reason, I'll kill you myself." Suddenly, Henry frowned. He turned to Amelia. "Was it this bitch? Or did her cunt mother blackmail you?" Henry pointed his finger toward Amelia. Recognizing the motion, Neo realized to his horror that Henry was about to kill Amelia. He didn't care if it meant revealing his powers. "Wait a second. She is pregnant with my child." Neo spoke the first words that came to his mind. "Huh? What?" Amelia let out a confused voice, and Henry seemed baffled. Neo didn't care what he was saying and continued. "After I failed to save the queen, Amelia and I were depressed. We weren't in our right mind, and things happened between us." "Nothing happened. Don't lie to him." Amelia became livid. Her face was beet red. However, her embarrassment only supported Neo's words. "Is that true?" Henry asked. "Yes." He replied with the most sincere, sad expression. No, it isn't. Listen to me. Why are you believing him without any proof? Amelia wanted to cry, but had no tears. She didn't understand why Neo was doing this to her. As she tried to stand, Henry pushed down on her shoulders. Sit. It's not good for the child if your blood pressure becomes too high. I'm telling you, I'm not pregnant. It's okay, I understand. Even if it was a mistake, it is my duty as an adult to stand by you too and guide you. You don't understand anything. Amelia, Neo approached her. What? Neo looked at her with his usual serious expression. She became flustered when he stared at her intensely. We don't need to hide it from our brother. I trust him. Stop lying, please. Watching Amelia's vehement protest, Henry became doubtful. Neo noticed that and used the secret trick up his sleeve. He activated Ocean's Embrace spell. His body was covered in faint blue light. This is the Tremorrank spell the Queen passed on to me. You should know, only 2 people can inherit that spell. So it's really true. Henry clicked his tongue. Isn't she an academy student? Is it safe for her to attend such a dangerous place in her condition? Henry asked. She doesn't have anywhere else to go, Neo said with a sad expression. That sounds true. At the side, Amelia was grinding her teeth in complete fury. She stared at Neo as if she was going to kill him. Neo ignored the chill on his back and asked Henry, Can we leave for the academy? I need to reach there by tomorrow to receive my rank. Henry puckered his lips. Thanks for reminding me, fucker. Care to explain what came over you to register into the most difficult course of the Demigod Academy? Neo Hargraves was in the Templar course. After completing 2 years of academy, he would become a junior Templar. Templars were the official knights of a temple. Among the billions of people living on the continent, only 100 people receive a junior Templar certificate every year. The recognition, money, and power a Templar wielded was unimaginable. The top 25 Templar of every year could attend the college and try their hand at the senior Templar course. If they passed, they could challenge a senior Templar. Needless to say, each senior Templar was an absolute monster. It was rare for a senior Templar to lose their position to a junior Templar. The current 81 senior Templars had been there for 100 years. You'll rest today. The rank registration won't start until tomorrow. Henry did not leave room for negotiations. After booking 2 rooms near the academy, Neo decided to crash for the night at 5 p.m. You want to sleep now? Henry asked. Yes, I'm tired from the last few days. The reason behind Neo's words was simple. He was going to go to the underworld. Immortal had 3 charges right now. Another charge would appear at midnight, but it would be wasted since the skill was at max stack already. If he slept at 6 p.m. and spent 6 hours of real time in the underworld, he would regain the charge he lost as soon as he woke up at 12 a.m. He needed Immortal at max stack for the Academy's ranking battle that would happen tomorrow, because 20% of the students die during it. Students dying in an Academy competition and crazy parents who send their children there. It's really a crazy world, Neo thought. He understood that this was a different world, and he needed to get used to the mentality of this world if he wanted to live. Here, only strength ruled. If you were strong, you could control people, bend natural laws, and rise to the rank of gods. Henry gave him a dubious look and allowed him to sleep early. For obvious reasons, he sent Amelia with him. Amelia shut the door with a slam and sat on the king-sized bed. Why did you lie like that? She sighed, having calmed down. You don't look angry, Neo noticed. I thought you would attack me as soon as we were alone. Sigh, there must be a reason why you did what you did. We may have spent only a bit of time together, but I know you aren't someone who acts impulsively. For someone who seemed relaxed, she sure was glaring hard at him a few minutes back. My brother must have thought you kidnapped me. It wouldn't matter even if I tried to convince him otherwise. If I didn't lie back then, he would have killed you by now. Amelia didn't ask why his brother would do that. It was normal for people to kill others if they displeased them. Her mother was no different. If she thought someone kidnapped Amelia, she would end the kidnappers' lives, even if they had genuine reasons. Was his brother the same? Amelia looked at Neo sympathetically. She could relate to him. Despite everything, she thought Henry was a good brother. Henry, after confirming Neo's safety, had not tried to pry into Neo's secrets. He never asked Neo about his bloodline or tried to force him into answering the questions he was clearly evading. Those qualities showed how deeply he cared for Neo and how much he trusted him. After answering her, Neo prepared to kill himself. Sleep. Are you really going to sleep now? She asked. I need to rest so that I'm in the best condition for tomorrow's competition. He lied on the bed and stared at her. What? She questioned. Aren't you going to leave? Don't tell me you want to sleep together. What? Dash. Amelia took a deep breath and calmed herself down. We have to sleep together if you don't want your brother to find out about your lie. Fair enough, Neo yawned. Just don't touch me while I'm asleep like you did last time. I told you it was a misunderstanding. Neo used the death skill to kill himself painlessly. I wonder what kind of training Barbados prepared for me. He tried to be open-minded to accept all kinds of surprises. I'm excited for the training. Top floor, Dover Hotel. Henry took a puff of smoke. He stood next to the window, and his eyes were glued to the sunset. An old man in a butler uniform entered the room. Master, is it true the young master has the mermaid queen's daughter pregnant? What do you think? He took another puff. Young master was lying. He has a habit of trying to smile whenever he lies. A chuckle left Henry's lips. That fucker really thought he tricked us. Fucking dickhead. He is 100 years too early to lie to me. Master, if I may be so presumptuous to ask, why did you let the young master get away with a lie? You never liked when he lied to you in the past. Why, huh? Henry rubbed the cigarette in the ashtray and took out a new one from the pack. Because of his eyes when he tried to protect that girl. Neo was a coward. After the day their parents died, Neo became a recluse who would shiver uncontrollably just at the thought of meeting other people. He was pathetic. When Henry found out Neo registered for the Templar course and passed the written exams, he thought it was an impulse. That Neo just wanted to lash out because Henry treated him like a kid. Henry believed it was a good chance to let Neo meet more people, so he did not stop Neo from trying to enter the Demigod Academy. But, to Henry's horror, Neo suddenly disappeared. The news of Neo's appearance at Mermaid Country brought him relief and worry. At one point, Henry, unable to find Neo, almost went berserk. If he had found Neo a day later, he did not know what he would have done. Neo has changed, Henry said. When he met him today, he was no longer shaking in his boots. He looked at Henry in the eyes when Henry cursed at him. His movements and tone were filled with undeniable confidence. Neo had grown. How did it happen? What did he go through in a few days to mature so suddenly? Young master, is he possessed by an outer god? The butler questioned. It is the only way I can explain his change. Possessed, huh? Henry felt a throbbing pain on his scar. He took out another cigarette and took a puff. The pain lessened. I didn't sense the presence of an outer god on him, and he took a drag. His habits are the same. That wouldn't be possible if he is a different person. The person was Neo, and he was maturing. I guess it's time for the chick to leave the nest. Henry smiled. He was happy his brother was changing. Honestly, he didn't want Neo to enter the Demigod Academy as it was dangerous. But in their world, weakness was a sin. As much as Henry hated to think about it, he wouldn't always be there to protect Neo. He turned to the butler. What about the documents I asked? I brought them. Henry took the pile of papers from the butler. He flipped through them and clicked his tongue. That bitch left a protector for her daughter. After the Tyrant Queen's death, there were countless demigods who wanted to snatch the Tremor-rank spell from Amelia. However, almost any organization who tried to make a move was suddenly destroyed. It was an open warning. The Tyrant Queen might be dead, but her daughter was not defenseless. Master, is the protector? Yeah, it's that bitch herself. She isn't dead. After knowing Neo's skill, Henry was sure his brother saved the queen and inherited her spell as compensation. At least that dickhead has good business sense. He earned a giant profit and removed a roadblock for me. Henry added, create a fake identity for the bitch. His words confused the butler. Why are you trying to help the Tyrant Queen, Master? I'm helping my brother. Henry inhaled the cigarette. That bitch owes a favor to him. It's better for us if she isn't caught. Someone as strong as her would be a valuable ally for Neo. Besides, no one would think I helped her. We aren't in any danger. After discussing the important matters, The butler was about to leave when suddenly Henry called out to him. "Did you prepare the thing I asked for Neos ranking competition?" "Yes," the butler bowed. "It will be completed by tomorrow morning." Underworld. Neo opened his eyes. A foot was coming down to stomp his head. He swiftly rolled away, and he jumped to his feet. What? 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 20? Countless Golwaks rushed at him. There was no time to gather his thoughts or ask Barbados about the training's content. He had to fight as soon as he arrived. A Golwak slashed the dagger at his head. Neo twisted his head with minimal movements. He shattered the Golwak's neck with necrotic touch and snatched the dagger from it. Just as he was about to fight, the Golwak, despite missing its head, grabbed his leg and clawed his feet. They can move without a head. Neo was surprised. Despite being ambushed as soon as he came to the underworld, he didn't feel threatened. Instead, he was excited. More. I want to fight more. Fighting made his blood boil with excitement. Every time he nearly died to Golwak, everyone could die in the underworld according to Barbados, and if that happened, their souls would not reincarnate and instead be shattered. He came close to death. The feeling was addicting and exhilarating. Neo was about to stomp the Golwak when suddenly another tried to pounce on his back. He forcefully freed his right foot and, by spinning on his other foot, smashed the right foot in the Golwak's face. Without stopping, he used the momentum to drop a hammer kick on the Golwak, clawing his left foot. An arrow stabbed into his back. They have archers. Neo scanned his surroundings when another swift spear stabbed towards his head. These sick bastards. They are aiming for my head again. He barely managed to twist his neck in time. The feeling of closeness to death made his own death affinity wriggle in excitement. For mastering elements, one needed to get close to them. For death element, Neo needed to get close to death, which he was currently doing by narrowly dodging death and killing the Golwaks. He lost his left ear and a portion of his face in exchange for saving his life. While Neo dodged the attack, he closed the gap and dashed toward the Golwak instead of retreating. The skeleton did not expect such a move, and Neo plunged the dagger into the spear-wielding Golwak's lower jaw. Instantly, Neo tilted his head, and an arrow whizzed past his head. He took away his spear as the dead Golwak fell. Then he spun on his feet and threw the weapon like a javelin. The attack pierced through 3 Golwaks and nailed the bow-wielding Golwak to the ground. Got you. A war hammer struck his head. Neo's vision spun. His ears rang loudly, and he stumbled. Why the fuck do they keep going after my head? Blood poured out of his nose and eyes. He could barely think straight. His death affinity was crackling in excitement from the near-death hits. The Golwak smashed the war hammer into Neo's stomach and threw him into the sand. The attack, followed with pain, brought clarity to Neo's mind. He rolled away before the war hammer turned his chest into a paste. But he couldn't dodge the attack completely. His fingers were crushed. What's up with these guys today? They are unusually aggressive. Neo's fingers swiftly regenerated on their own, and he continued fighting. He broke the war hammer-wielding Golwak's knee with a stomp and took a glimpse at the timer. Time remaining, 11 hours, 58 minutes. Only 2 minutes passed? Neo was stunned. He had been feeling like he had been fighting for hours. Instead of being afraid, his eyes burned in excitement. It only meant he could fight more. As if agreeing to him, his death affinity roared in the form of red lightning around him. He activated the Ocean's Embrace spell after several attempts as he dodged the attacks. His body was covered in a thin blue film. Suddenly, an arrow struck his nape. The attack bounced harmlessly off his skin, and Neo only felt a slight pain. Now I can fight even longer. He held his weapon with a tight grip and looked around. Golwaks were fierce, but they fought systematically. The battles with them were similar to turn-based combat normally. They would attack, Neo would dodge, Neo would attack, and if they didn't die, they would attack again. But today, they fought like madhounds. All of them rushed at him and attacked without caring about friendly fire or self-harm. The worst part? They were cooperating with each other, even though it looked like they were attacking in mad rage. When Neo eliminated 2 Golwaks, it turned out they were bait for the 3rd Golwak to use. They were fighting chaotically, but somehow there was order in their chaos. I'll die at this rate. Even if I don't, I'll tire myself out. Neo needed to change location, preferably to a place where he wasn't open to attacks from all sides like he was now. Neo scanned the surroundings. There were 3 locations he could go to: the beach, the sea, and the mist. He was already on the beach. Going into sea would. As soon as he thought about escaping into the sea, his body shuddered uncontrollably. Don't go there, his senses screamed at him. The mist is the only way, he thought, and dashed inland where the mist was. Just when he was about to enter the mist, his death affinity warned him of an incoming attack. He crouched instantly. Something flew over him, and, the gullwax behind him were cleaved in half. All of them, dead. The thing that flew over was an attack. He looked at the mist. What's in there? Neo knew he shouldn't go into the mist, but more gullwax were crawling out of the beach. If he remained there, the previous situation would repeat. He would be surrounded and eventually killed. Staying on the beach was no different from a death sentence. Seems that you've warmed up, O great child of Monarch. The Grim Reaper's voice came out of thin air. Is this your doing? Do you mean the gullwax becoming frenzied? It was done by you, not by us. What do you mean? When Barbados spoke, the gullwax stopped moving. Neo used the opportunity to take a breather. He asked questions to keep Barbados talking. Your blood is a nectar. The gullwax, after smelling it last time, became like this. Neo felt incredulous. So he had to make sure he didn't spill too much blood, or else the monsters would gain a berserk boost? What kind of shitty situation is this? In truth, this was the same for all demigods. Their blood would attract monsters. As long as their blood stayed inside their body, their flesh would act as an insulator and hide the scent of the blood, but when the blood was spilled outside from the body, then the monsters could smell it. Since you've warmed up, we will reveal the content of the training. 5 flags appear before Neo. In the land beyond the mist, we've prepared 5 flag bases. You have to insert the flags into them. Neo grabbed the flags. The training sounded simple, but it was of nightmare difficulty. Neo could barely survive the monsters on the beach. He almost died when he tried to enter the mist. The Grim Reaper wanted him to go into the land beyond the mist. Why doesn't he tell me to die? Well, I'm technically already dead. Watching Neo's serious expression, the Grim Reaper added, We know, the training does seem simple. So, to increase the difficulty, we've decided to do this. Neo heard a snap. He suddenly felt the pressure of Underworld increase by 1,000-fold. He couldn't breathe. His eyes watered, and he felt he was under twice the gravity. The death affinity, which always warned him of the incoming danger, went out of control. It started to claw at his throat. He tried to breathe, but like a fish out of water, he could barely do anything. We have sealed your blessing of the Underworld. With this, you will feel as if you are in your body in the living world. The increased difficulty will increase the training's effectiveness. Neo's divine energy was reduced to 1/4, and he became nauseous. It wasn't training anymore. He would die if he faced an opponent in this condition. Without the blessing, he was as weak as his real self in the world of living. Neo was on his knees, desperately trying to stabilize his breathing. He felt like an asthma patient. The Grim Reaper continued talking. We know what you might be thinking, but we promise you, this is training, not a punishment. Neo heard another snap. Information appeared inside his head. Barbados gave it to him, but unlike last time, it wasn't a spell. This should help you survive and grow stronger if you use it wisely. We hope you succeed, O great child of Monarch. Barbados' presence disappeared. The gullwax began to move. They rushed at Neo, who was writhing on the ground like a tsunami. Damn it! The Grim Reaper gave him an incredibly precious gift. It was something more useful and powerful than the Tremorank spell. However, Neo was in no position to make use of it right now. He activated the Ocean's Embrace clumsily and struck an uppercut. The attack pushed back the gullwax, but not before another gullwax bit his shoulder. There was no serious injury. The Ocean's Embrace saved him. He could, however, feel the gullwax teeth slightly sinking into his skin. Neo's mastery over the spell was not enough to make him impervious to attacks. He bashed the Golwack's head against his fist and killed it. Dozens of Golwacks pounced on Neo. He used the dead Golwack as a battering ram and broke through the encirclement. The number of Golwacks was only increasing. Neo had no other choice but to escape from the beach. He held the dead Golwack before him and ran into the mist. His body movements were not perfect after he lost the blessing. Neo couldn't dodge when he sensed an incoming attack from a mist. Instead, he raised the Golwack's corpse to use it as a shield. He knew the corpse couldn't stop the attack, but as long as it slowed the attack even a little, that was enough. His defense mainly depended on his spell. Show me how good a tremor rank spell is. He shouted in his mind, hoping it could protect him. A blade of invisible air split the corpse before it hit Neo in the chest. The sheer force of the attack shattered the ocean's embrace, protecting him. He was left with a bleeding gash on his torso. But, cough, cough. He was alive. Injured, but alive at least. His senses suddenly flared. Another attack was coming. Neo's body moved on instinct. He dashed toward the place that gave off the scent of danger and punched. His attack connected. The sound of glass shattering rang, and the enemy's invisibility disappeared. A large mantis with the lower half of a snake stood before him. Neo was holding on to its tail. The mantis made a shrill cry. It launched an invisible blade from its scythe. Neo instinctively used the mantis tail as cover. The attack couldn't cut its body and left a huge gash. While the mantis went berserk from pain, Neo dashed and grabbed its head with necrotic touch. Its skin started to rot. The monster tried to get Neo off its head. It thrashed around, but Neo protected himself from being squashed with Ocean's embrace. How much time passed? Neo, after applying 5 stacks, diverted his full focus towards maintaining Ocean's embrace. Maybe because the mantis was a creature of the underworld, the spell, powered by death affinity, took time to kill it. Finally, the monster stopped moving. Neo lay over its corpse as black pus flowed out of its rotting head. I feel like shit. Neo raised his head to look around. He didn't know where he was. The mist hindered the visibility. It was hard to see anything more than a few meters away. We must have come a long way from the beach. I can't hear those Golwacks. As he focused on his hearing, he suddenly heard an unfamiliar voice. Neo heard the splashing of water. It's a river. He got down from the corpse and gulped. His body was covered in blood. Back on the beach, the Golwacks became frenzied due to his blood. If he didn't wash himself, he did not know what he might attract. Just thinking of facing multiple mantis monsters was enough to make him search for the river. He moved through the mist. His body was crying in pain. The healing seemed to have disappeared with the blessing. This damned body, using 5 stacks of necrotic touch and Ocean's embrace, left him with less than half of his divine energy. He would regain the divine energy slowly in normal situations. But it wasn't possible anymore, because he hadn't eaten anything. Divine energy came from the god blood, flowing in a demigod's veins. It was replenished by consuming food. Breathing divine, energy-rich air and regaining divine energy would help, but this method took a long time. Neo noticed the mist thinning. He hurried his steps and came out of the white fog. The forest was full of large, ancient trees with thick vines falling from their high branches. Clouds floated in the sky. Thanks to his bloodline providing him night vision, he could see even though Underworld was under a perpetual night. The forest was silent save for the noise of the river. He reached the bank with a heavy breath. The river, full of blood-red water, looked ominous to say the least. Neo slowly lowered his hand and dipped it. Nothing happened. This proved the water was not harmful to skin at least. He removed his clothes and washed himself. After rubbing himself thoroughly, he tore his jacket and tied it around the wound on his chest and the shoulder. It stung. He stared at the reflection in the water. His cheek healed, and the bleeding stopped since those injuries appeared before he lost the blessing. But his right ear never regenerated. The tips of 3 fingers of his left hand were crushed. He could hold a weapon, but his grip was weak. His shoulder had bite marks. He was wondering if it might get infected as he had no medications. His chest injury, a gash from the top left shoulder to the right waist, was the lightest wound. It looked vicious, but it barely hurt. It would have been better if I could have used the ocean's embrace from the beginning. His low mastery of the spell was the reason it took him so long to activate the spell. At least, it didn't fail like his first time with Necrotic Touch. After getting out of the river, he sat under a nearby tree. He focused inwards and checked the information Barbados left him. It was knowledge of how to use the darkness element. The underworld was where dark-type elements were present in high concentration. After spending a long time in the underworld, the souls got tainted by these elements. The darkness element had the property to devour. Darkness was a color that took the colors from others and painted them into its color. Similarly, those tainted by darkness, or with an affinity for it, could absorb other souls/bodies into themselves. Depending on a mastery and luck, they could gain stats, skills, and more from the consumed objects. It was why the number of corrupted souls, monsters, in the underworld did not overflow. They consumed each other and kept growing stronger for eons. Neo had to do the same. If he wanted to survive Barbados' training, he needed to devour his enemies. His emotions were calm, but his mind told him it was wrong. Until a few weeks ago, he was a normal person. He shouldn't accept something like this so easily. But another part of his mind rationalized his thoughts. Anyone who spends too much time in the underworld would be consumed by insanity. The monsters were no longer their previous self. They were now just monsters. The mantis he fought. Suddenly, tremors appeared. They increased in intensity. The silent forest shook loudly. Do earthquakes exist in the underworld? Neo could not complete his words. They were stuck in his throat, because he felt it. The source of the tremor was moving towards him, and his senses were crying. His death affinity warned him. The thing approaching him was strong as Elizabeth, if not stronger. An exalted demigod. The tremors stopped, and a huge shadow that seemed to cover the sky fell over Neo. He didn't move, he didn't breathe, and he didn't run. He did his best to hide by trying to melt into the surroundings. The strongest beings in the world of living. They were exalted demigods. There was no way he could do anything against someone who was as strong as an exalted demigod. Neo did not raise his head. He waited. Time passed. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. A huge hand came down from the sky and gouged out the river. Silence returned. Neo carefully raised his head. He couldn't believe what he saw. A humongous humanoid being, someone so giant his torso pierced the clouds, was the source of his death affinity's warnings. The being drank the river it scooped into its palm. My blood, is it trying to drink the blood I washed into the river? Neo recalled Barbados' words. His blood was a nectar. It called out a monster as strong as an exalted demigod to his location. The giant finished drinking. It didn't leave and stood there. Is it searching for me? Neo could feel his heart thumping crazily. His death affinity was warning him. I should be safe. My blood has clotted, and no one can sense the blood of a demigod as long as it's within their body. Despite knowing that, he couldn't calm himself. Suddenly, everything went silent. The warnings disappeared. Tremors appeared. The giant covered an unimaginable distance with each step and left. Neo lost strength in his legs. He fell. He was breathing heavily. Damn, that was scary. He stood up when the gouged-out land began to refill with the help of the flowing river. I'll consume the mantis corpse. The encounter with the giant straightened his thoughts. In the underworld, his morals would not protect him. He couldn't hesitate. Getting stronger was the bare minimum if he wanted to survive. To use darkness or to not use it. The dilemma was a luxury a grade 5 awakened demigod like him could not afford. Besides, it wasn't like he was devouring a human soul. It was a monster. After making a decision, he moved towards the mist. He had barely recovered any divine energy, and he was steadily growing tired. Consuming the mantis should help him recover. Yes, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just trying to survive. He rationalized his thoughts. The location of the mantis corpse was not far into the mist. Despite the lack of visibility, Neo could reach the location fairly easily by referring to his memory. And, fuck, of course it's like this. The corpse was missing. He crouched and touched the soil. The ground had marks as if the mantis was dragged away. There were multiple footprints along the path. Should I follow the traces? The mantis had weak defense, but it was fairly strong. I should get quite a few stats if I absorb it. Neo's mind raced. Multiple monsters were needed to drag the corpse. They are physically weak. They didn't hunt the monster and instead stole the corpse. They are thieves, not hunters. The fact they live in groups means the individual members of their species have low combat power. They use numbers to protect themselves. All of the deductions pointed out to a single conclusion. The monsters were at the bottom of the food chain. They were a species that lived on scraps of others. But a group also signifies they have basic intelligence. There's a chance they will be able to make use of weapons and traps, since monsters have evolved with divine energy. Moreover, I don't know their numbers. Without the blessing of the underworld, I can't heal anymore. Fighting recklessly like I usually do is out of the question. It was dangerous. Moreover, his goal was to search for flag posts, but he wouldn't find them by searching for them blindly. He might encounter a strong monster during the exploration. These monsters, seemingly at the bottom of the food chain, were the best choice for Neo to hunt. It was risky, but without taking risk, he wouldn't be able to grow stronger. He made the decision and followed the tracks left by whoever stole the mantis corpse. The tracks took him out of the mist. He navigated through the forest and soon heard unintelligible noises. They were coming from behind and to the left sides. One group went ahead and two more were nearby. How many of them are there? Neo quickly looked for a method to hide. The noises were slowly nearing. He suddenly saw the vines hanging from the trees. There was no other place to hide. Return to monkey it is. The vines were easy to hold and climb with. However, Neo, after losing the blessing, became tired easily. He had climbed only half of the way when the monsters appeared. Crude purple skin, short stature, and hideously ugly. Most of them were empty-handed while a few carried a wooden club. Gremlins. Neo recognized them. He climbed the vines while the monsters focused on the path and stood on the thick tree branches. I should use the tree branches to tail them. With their short stature, they would find it difficult to climb, and if Neo was caught, he would have enough time to run away. As he followed the gremlins, he realized something horrible. There were too many of them. He came across 5 groups, and their numbers only increased as they went in the direction where their base might be. They approached an area with sparse trees. Neo was forced to a stop, and he tried to scout the gremlins' base from a distance. There were a few hundred of them at least. They lived in ragtag huts and had created a crude wooden wall to surround the tribe's border. Judging from the infrastructure, they were either nomadic or poorly skilled. There was a burned bonfire in the center of the tribe. The corpse of the mantis was there. The gremlins seemed to be laughing and dancing as they tore a piece of the corpse and ate. Neo suddenly noticed a woman next to the corpse. Tears and snot covered her face. He couldn't hear her and tried to read her lips. "Help me. Someone. Save me." She was missing her right leg. The gremlins tore her body apart and ate her along with the mantis corpse. He bit his lips. There was nothing he could do. She was already dead, and he was too weak to help. Fighting a group of gremlins, let alone hundreds, in his current condition was suicide. Still, he didn't avert his eyes. It was weird. How could he stay calm in the current situation? He was in the underworld where he could be killed any time, yet he never felt afraid. "I feel numbed. Barbados warned me I'll become tainted if I touch death too many times." Neo felt it was a good change. He calmly analyzed the situation. The woman must be a wandering soul. Either a Grim Reaper didn't come to pick her up, or she ran away. She ran away and became food for monsters. It was how things worked in the underworld. There was no happy ending for the weak. Power was the only solution. Not just the underworld, it's the same in the world of living. If I don't become strong, I'll never survive the calamities. Suddenly, Neo felt the flags inside his clothes vibrate. He took one of them out. The flag, as if it came to life, whirred and pointed at the burned bonfire in the middle of the gremlin camp. A beat later, it returned to its lifeless self. Neo looked at the flag in his hand and at the bonfire. Is it telling me the flag post is there? Barbados was really trying to get him killed. But how can I go in there and use the flag post. Gremlins were not friendly to humans. The woman showed him why. A small group might be doable, but fighting hundreds is not an option. He stared at partying gremlins while they enjoyed the feast. Partying? Oh, an idea popped in Neo's head. This might work. Gremlins were social monsters. They hunted when they were hungry, they stole when they found a target, they laughed when they feasted, they moved in groups to use the advantage of numbers, they used clubs as weapons. They had emotions. Not just joy, patience, and ambition. Sadness, rage, fear. They probably had those too. His plan was simple, and it targeted those emotions. There was just one problem. It was a heinous plan no sane person would use. But when he remembered how they ate the woman while laughing, Neo felt no remorse. They were monsters, and he was going to treat them like one. Neo moved away from the camp. He searched for a solitary group of gremlins with no more than 3 monsters. Maybe it was because there was no predator in the trees, and because the thick tree branches did not make noise when Neo moved on them. The gremlins never checked if there was someone above them. Neo climbed down halfway through the vine and angled himself above a gremlin. They were a group of 5. He used Ocean's Embrace before he let go of the vine. The first gremlin was crushed to death as he fell on top of it. A shiver ran down his legs, but the impact was non-lethal, maybe thanks to the spell. He grabbed the heads of the nearest gremlins before they could react and smashed them together. Their heads popped like balloons. Suddenly, Neo felt a stinging pain on the back of his leg. He turned around. A gremlin was stabbing him with a crude knife. The last gremlin pounced on him with a roar just as he was about to kill the knife-wielding gremlin. Neo allowed the gremlin to bite his left hand. These little critters weren't as strong as Gullwax and couldn't pierce his Ocean's Embrace. Neo flexed his arm and hit the gremlin on his arm against the knife-wielding gremlin. They let go of him in pain and were swiftly killed by getting their necks snapped. He fell to the ground as soon as the battle ended. Huff! Huff! My stamina is the real problem here. The scene around him, with the heads bashed open, was straight out of a gore movie. He looked at his blood-covered hands with a sigh. I spilled too much blood. It will attract other monsters. These corpses aren't usable for my plan. Although it wasn't his original intention, he decided to devour them. He reviewed the information Barbados had given him. He was going to use Darkness Element, which had been awakened by Barbados, when he suddenly stopped. His ears turned red. Do I really need to do hand signs to use the element? After reviewing the information, he found out that using hand signs or words could alter the flow of divine energy through his magic circuits. It was a must for an amateur like him. He could stop using them when his mastery increased, but right now they were necessary. Fuck, I need to use them. Neo gave up. He curled his fingers inward, while his thumb and middle fingers touched in a precise gesture. Devour. Divine energy rushed into his core. Inside, it transformed into something heavier and burst out. His shadow shook. It suddenly stretched in all directions and turned the ground below him pitch black. The corpses slowly sunk into the darkness. Neo maintained the hand signs and focused on absorbing the gremlins. Countless voices appeared inside his head. Kuwam and Yocharg, my third, fourth, is second when Wilf isn't. It was the gods of the voices of darkness made no sense to Neo. A trail of blood flowed down from his nose. He did his best to ignore the voices, lest he let the insanity take over his mind. After a few minutes, the corpses were completely absorbed. Neo let go of the hand signs, and the darkness returned to his shadow. He breathed heavily while wiping the blood from his nose. His complexion was better. He felt rejuvenated, and his stamina was restored a bit. Constitution +2. 2 stat points, and primary stat points at that. It's a jackpot right off the bat. The corner of his lips rose into a smile. Using darkness brought immense mental fatigue, but right now, his biggest problem was his stamina, and it was somewhat solved with the darkness element. He took the knife that the gremlin had used and looked around. There was no blood or corpse remaining. If someone came there, they wouldn't believe the place had been filled with smashed open heads, cranium, and blood a few minutes ago. I should be able to stop them from bleeding with a knife and necrotic touch. He climbed the trees and looked for another group. This one had 3 gremlins. He dropped next to the first gremlin and slit its throat. The others tried to run, but he threw the knife and caught one of them while the other tripped, which allowed Neo to finish them with necrotic touch. After the battle ended, he tied them with vines and hung them on the trees. I need to repeat this quite a few more times. It's going to be tiring. The corpses dangled in the air. They were low enough for the gremlins to see, but still high to the point they couldn't get them off until they climbed. If Neo repeated the hangings, it was bound to affect gremlins. Fear, rage. He wondered what they, who could eat other species alive, would feel. Dover Hotel, World of Living. Amelia stared at the ceiling with a tired gaze. She rolled in the bed again. No matter how much she tried, she couldn't sleep. Turning around, she stared at Neo. Hey, are you asleep? He was sleeping like a log. She raised her head and stared at him with a frown. Honestly, she didn't want to think this way, but she was suspicious of Neo. In terms of appearance, Amelia was a cut above the rest. She was the same age as Neo, and they were sleeping next to each other. How could a boy in his prime sleep soundly next to her? He might swing that way. Amelia blinked. Her face brightened. Her mother's advances were bound to fail. The caution she harbored against Neo dissipated. She did not need to take precautions anymore. Looking again, Neo's sleeping face seemed a bit cute. She gently touched his cheek with her finger and giggled. He was sleeping so soundly that he didn't wake up when she pinched his cheeks. His posture remained the same. Even his chest wouldn't move, as if he was not breathing. Amelia suddenly froze, as if he was not breathing. No, that's not possible. She pressed her palm against his chest swiftly, and there is no heartbeat. Neo did not have a pulse either. He was not sleeping. He was dead. Amelia's face hardened, but she regained her calm quickly. Neo was immortal. He had proven it. Why did he die suddenly? He should still be alive. Was it an assassination, or was it the price of cheating death? She didn't complete her words, fearing they might come true. Nobody can die and return to the world of living without paying a price. Neo never said what he had sacrificed. What if his current condition was the consequence of it? She recalled his heavy aura of death. It was something only those who visited the underworld could have. Did he have to keep visiting that horrible place as the price of his powers? It was an open secret that exalted demigods wanted to find methods of immortality. They knew about the underworld more than anyone else, and they were afraid of dying and going there. Amelia bit her lips. Twice. Neo died twice to help her mother and her. Twice he must have gone to the underworld, and still, he never told them about it. Is he trying to make sure we don't feel guilty? What kind of nightmares had he seen in that world? What would he do if he could not return again? Amelia did not know how Neo could remain sane. How much courage was needed to visit the world feared by the so-called strongest demigods? There was nothing Amelia could do. She could only pray he would not lose his way. That no matter the horror he faced, he would stand strong. Even if he was alone. Even if he had no one to support him. Please stay safe. Forest of all beginnings. Land beyond the mist, underworld. I'm finally done. Neo looked at the work that took him hours to complete. Dozens of gremlins were hanged on the trees. It looked like the work of a psychopath. He pursed his lips. Maybe I went too far. Shaking his head, he climbed a vine and waited for another group of gremlins. The monsters arrived. They froze when they saw the dangling corpses. One of the gremlins shouted. It tried to jump and pulled down the corpses. Neo remained hidden. He noticed the gremlins growing frantic from rage or shock before they ran back to their camp. They gathered around the burned bonfire. It did not take long for hundreds of gremlins to join them. They shouted and made incomprehensible noise for minutes. A small group of 15, 20 gremlins left in the direction of the hanged corpses. They're checking if it's true that gremlins are hanged. The group returned after a few minutes. They were livid. Their screeches confirmed the death of their fellow gremlins. The crowd of gremlins was about to leave and search for the perpetrator when suddenly another group of gremlins returned while shouting and roaring. They found the other sides. Neo had hung the corpses at multiple places. Since every group of gremlins went in different directions, he was able to hang them without getting caught. Hundreds of monsters rushed out of the camp. They took out weapons and swept through the forest. The gremlins looked at the tree branches to see if the killer was hiding there. Unfortunately for them, Neo was in the trees next to the base. Since the corpses were far from the camp, the monsters never thought he would hide there. Now, I can start. The base had only a handful of gremlins left. Neo's actions had pissed them badly. He carefully moved on the trees above the base. These trees had thin branches. If he was not cautious, the noise would alert the gremlins or the branches might snap. He failed to notice thin threads covering the area. The threads snapped when he moved through them. Bells hidden on the trees rang. Neo's position was revealed. Shit! The gremlins, while not wary towards the enemy in the trees, had made sure to protect the area above their camp. Neo's mind raced. Should he run away, or should he try to complete the task? There was not much time left until the gremlins returned after hearing the bells. But if he was fast, he might be able to escape. I should. The branch snapped when a gremlin suddenly hit it with a stone. Neo barely had time to use Ocean's embrace before his body hit the ground. He groaned. I think I broke something. As if it wasn't bad enough, he heard the noise of horns. The gremlins began to surround him. Fuck, if I'm already here, might as well complete the task. Neo rushed towards a burned bonfire. The gremlins in his path were pushed away. Their attacks did nothing against Ocean's embrace. He kicked the bonfire and a flagpost was revealed. Thank God, it's actually here. It wouldn't have been funny if it wasn't there. He pushed the flag into its place. Nothing happened. It's done, right? Don't tell me I have to make sure the flag isn't pulled out. Neo's senses flared. An attack was aimed at him from behind. He raised his arm. A sword sliced through the Ocean's embrace and cut halfway into his arm. When the blade stopped in place, Neo smashed the elbow of his other hand into the gremlin who stood behind him. The gremlin moved its head to dodge the attack. It pulled back the sword and kicked Neo in the back. Neo crashed into the heaps of burned bonfire. Before he could move, the gremlin jumped on top of him and stabbed the sword at his heart. An evolved gremlin? It was bigger than others, almost the same size as Neo, and had defined muscles. Neo was not its match in the physical contest. Nevertheless, Neo grabbed the blade before it pierced him. Ocean's embrace saved his fingers from being sliced off. The gremlin grunted. It increased the strength and tried to push the blade further. Before the spell could be breached again, Neo kicked its shin. The attack threw it off balance, and Neo broke its neck with 3 stacks of necrotic touch. Neo could only see gremlins everywhere he turned. Normal gremlins weren't a threat individually. Ocean's embrace made their attacks useless. But even an elephant would fall against an ocean of ants. Neo tried to dash out of the encirclement. The gremlins attacked as if they didn't care about their life. They tried to stop him, even just for a second. When Neo was confused by their vigor, they suddenly threw ropes around him. These fuckers, they're used to fighting someone stronger than them. Neo grabbed the ropes and pulled with a snap. Unfortunately, multiple evolved gremlins held the ends of the ropes. He could not escape. It was the end of the rope for him. Desperate, he used necrotic touch to shatter his left hand tied by the rope. The pain sent waves of agony across his mind. But he had no choice. The encirclement was stable because he was being pulled from all sides. With the disappearance of his arm, the ropes on his left got loose, and the encirclement lost its stability since they had been pulling both ropes with force. Dozens of gremlins fell backwards. Neo crouched and dashed into the group of nearest gremlins. He used necrotic touch to finish the evolved gremlin that jumped out. His divine energy was about to hit rock bottom. The anemia was making him feel as if he was about to die. A sword stabbed into his back, and he realized the Ocean's embrace had worn off. He could not maintain it any longer. The gremlins pounced on him. A heavy blow to his head threw him to the ground. He tried to use necrotic touch, but failed. At the same time, he felt pain in his legs. His bones were being crushed, and his flesh was torn apart. Neo didn't stop fighting. Just a bit more. He released his aura of death. The gremlins, residents of Underworld, were not affected in the least. However, they shrieked when Neo used the darkness element. The groups of monsters feeding on his body backed away. They stood at the border of the darkness, stretching below him. Neo struggled to keep his eyes open. He didn't look at his body, afraid of what he might see. All of his energy was diverted towards maintaining the darkness domain beneath his feet. The gremlins knew it could devour them, and they understood it was Neo's dying struggle. Just a bit more. Strength slipped from Neo's grasp. The darkness began to shrink. Gremlins pounced on him with a savage grin. And it's done. Time remaining, 0 hours, 00 minutes. Immortal time limit finished. You will be revived forcibly. Neo's eyes snapped open. He woke up on the hotel bed. Underworld. Barbados stared at the camp of gremlins. The monsters were in disarray after Neo suddenly disappeared. We miscalculated. He had a tremor-ranked defensive spell. Barbados lowered his gaze at the broken branch. It was the same branch from which Neo fell and was forced to fight the gremlins. A sigh left Barbados' lips. Forgive us, O great child of Monarch. But this too is a part of your training. No amount of physical strength can help a weak mind. Barbados was the reason why Neo got caught and why the gremlins returned so quickly. He had to make sure Neo lost, because Neo had to understand defeat. Neo, with the bloodline of Hades, had the potential to dominate the world. No, the cosmos. In future, the enemies of his father and those who wanted to steal the potential of bloodline would come after him. Neo needed to set his goals higher. He needed to understand that even he could fail and be defeated. He needed to give his best until the dying breath, so as to get stronger. O great child of Monarch, you have the potential, but you still need an immovable will to make use of that potential. We pray that this defeat will motivate you to do better instead of crushing you beneath its burden. Hades' bloodline had infinite potential, but potential meant nothing if it could not be used to the full extent. Humans had the potential to run 100 meters in 9.5 seconds if they reached their max potential. How many could actually do it? Only 0.01% of humans at best. If students studied, they had the potential to enter the best universities or colleges. How many actually cracked an exam? Barely a small percentage. Potential was just potential in the end. If Neo lacked the drive to improve, he could never achieve anything substantial. Barbados gave him the push. This defeat, it would either break Neo or it would change him for the better. We hope you will succeed, O great child of Monarch. Dover Hotel. Fuck. Neo covered his face to hide his terrible expression. I lost. Fuck. The plan failed. He almost died. Not almost. He might have survived, but he would die the next time he appeared in the underworld. The location he would arrive at was where he had left from. He would wake up in the gremlin tribe. Besides, would he even heal? His body was badly injured in today's battle. If he reappeared with those wounds, he would die within a minute. I was overconfident. Damn it. Neo wasn't afraid of death or the pain. That was why he had fought until the last moment instead of escaping by reviving himself. His goal was to become the strongest. He understood that he needed to do his best, even if that meant fighting until the last moment to achieve his goal. If he always ran away just because the enemy was stronger, then he would never become the strongest. Always winning, no matter if you were stronger or weaker than your opponent, was what won the strongest. However, the crushing defeat left a scar on his mind. Being defeated while he could not do a single thing to his enemy made him realize his weakness. He had been put down with an overwhelming difference. Fuck. Why? Why was he so overconfident? Was it because he defeated the death skill? Or was it because he saved Elizabeth? Maybe it was because he had the support of two of the strongest beings? Shit. He felt like shit. He thought everything would go his way since he knew the future and had the bloodline of Hades. But when it actually mattered, he couldn't put up a fight at all. Loser. Pathetic. Mediocre. That was how he had been in his last life. He thought he changed in this world, but he was still defeated easily. Neo removed his hand from his face and stared at the ceiling. Now what? What should a loser like him do? Return to the underworld? Neo would be killed. Then, should he act like he used to in his previous world? Yeah, he could stay in the world of living and not return to the underworld. That way, he would be safe. But as soon as the thought of escaping came into his mind, he instinctively rejected it. I'm not going to escape, even if his choice would lead to his death. Neo clenched his fists. His nails dug into his palm until they bled. Warning, you've left the quest area. Please return. Warning, if the user does not return to the quest area in 10 days, the quest will be forfeited. Neo stared at the screen. 10 days. He could ignore the quest. At best, he would lose the holy affinity. But how many times would he accept defeat? It's difficult right now. I should retreat. I can try again. If he thought like that once, he would do it again and again in the future. That was how he became a loser in his past world. Neo clenched his fists. 10 days. He would become strong enough to crush the gremlins in 10 days. Even if he had to die for it, Neo would achieve his goal. Drowned in his thoughts, he didn't realize he was being influenced by darkness. His mind and emotions were in shambles after having been ripped apart piece by piece, then eaten alive. Pain and fear were influencing him. Darkness heightened those emotions and turned his mind into a mess. Neo? What happened? Amelia's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. He turned around to hide his face. Nothing, I just woke up. Contrary to the usual, Amelia did not stop talking. Did you have a nightmare? You are shivering. He was shivering? Why? Was it because he was afraid of the pain? His body shivered unconsciously when he thought about the brutal death. After all, his body had been ripped piece by the gremlins while they ate him alive. Being afraid was pathetic. Even after dying multiple times, he was afraid of pain. Neo bit his lips. When he didn't answer, Amelia continued, It's okay if you are afraid. Everyone has times when they encounter difficulties. You can tell me. A trickle of blood flowed from Neo's lips. He opened his mouth to speak, to ask for help, but he abruptly stopped. Finally, he opened his mouth, but the words that came out were not a request for help. It's just cold, he said as he suppressed the tremors in his voice. I'm sleepy. Don't talk to me anymore. Okay, Amelia continued. But you can always talk to me if you're having a hard time. Neo didn't understand why Amelia was talking the way she was. He didn't want to understand anything right now. His mind was occupied with his own problems. The mental exhaustion from using darkness and everything else he went through in the underworld made it difficult for him to keep his eyes open. He fell asleep. Amelia raised her upper body from the bed. She leaned closer to his face and noticed the blood flowing out of his lips. Why wouldn't you ask for help? Even if I can't do anything, I can at least hear you out. Revealing a weakness would help him reduce the burden on his heart. But Neo had closed off his heart. Amelia could not do anything but wait for him. She wiped the blood from his lips and covered him with a blanket. Sleep well, she said to Neo. Neo woke up when he heard the knocks on the door. He felt refreshed. With the passage of time, the influence of darkness on his mind had reduced, and he was back to his previous self. Young master, may I come in? Yeah. He noticed the blanket. When did I use this? Yawning, he was about to get off the bed until he noticed Amelia holding his hand in her sleep. Before Neo could open her grip, the butler entered the room. Please get ready, young master. The Lord has called for you. I will get ready soon. While he spoke with a serious expression, he was trying to get Amelia to open her hand. Why was this woman's grip so powerful? The butler ignored his actions, and he was thankful for it. He would have died from embarrassment otherwise. Yawn, Neo, you are awake? Amelia rubbed her eyes and removed the strand of hair on her face. Half asleep, she looked at her hand which held Neo's hand, looked up at Neo, then back at their hands. Her face turned beet red as she let go. Good morning, Miss Amelia. The butler greeted her. Gee, good morning. I will be waiting for you two outside. Please get ready. It didn't take long for them to freshen up. They left the room and had breakfast. After filling their stomachs, the butler took them to Henry's room. The butler knocked on the door. Master, I brought young master and Miss Amelia. Come inside. They entered the room. Henry sat across the table and calmly sipped tea. Sit, he said. Neo and Amelia followed his words. Amelia felt awkward in front of Henry's piercing gaze. Neo, however, did not feel any pressure. He knows I lied yesterday, Neo thought. It was easy to confirm the pregnancy with the methods available in this world. The target wouldn't even know they had been tested. Henry must have used one of them. He was probably letting Amelia live, as he didn't want to antagonize Neo, or maybe he had other intentions. Neo wasn't interested in knowing the reason. As long as Amelia was safe until Elizabeth returned, his job was done. Bring it. The butler placed a suitcase on the table at Henry's command. What's this? Neo asked. Your gift for passing the Demigod Academy's exam, Henry said. Had I known about it, I would have. I told you it is a misunderstanding. Amelia stood up and moved away. She couldn't decide if she should feel insulted, angry, or embarrassed. Your clothes were ruined. I didn't want to leave you looking like that, and you were taking too long to revive, so I decided to sneak a peek. No, as I said, it's a misunderstanding. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Amelia's ears turned beet red. Her reactions were funny. He wanted to tease her more, but he felt windy down there. Neo looked at his clothes. Calling them ruined was underplaying it. They had more holes than a pampered kid's wallet. I'll take the clothes you prepared, he said. Thanks. He changed into the new set of attire prepared by Amelia. While he was changing, Amelia turned away. Thank you for helping us, she spoke solemnly. Don't mind it. I didn't do it for free. Silence descended. Both of them said nothing. Neo was trying to think of his future plans. He didn't bother initiating a conversation. The quietness bothered Amelia, and she spoke. Are you really immortal? Yes. Is that even possible? We were taught something else at the academy. Only now did Neo remember Amelia was a second year at Demigod Academy. In the novel, she left the academy since she had to take over the throne after her mother's death. Demigod Academy? Yeah. The professors taught us things about the great death god, Hades. He didn't seem to be a god who'd let even his children cheat death. Things, huh? Neo didn't bother asking about details. He knew exactly how Hades was treated among the demigods and gods. They feared his powers, and no one truly respected him. The only reason Hades was one of the three great gods was due to his overwhelming strength. You are awake. Mom. Elizabeth returned. She stared at Neo silently. He returned her gaze. Why are you two looking at each other like that? Amelia stepped in between them. Nothing, Elizabeth answered. We should go. I've completed the preparations. She gave a bag to Amelia. The three moved down from the hill and went in the direction of the beach. They traveled through forests by foot to make sure no one found them. It took them a few hours to reach their destination. Both Elizabeth and Neo were exhausted by the end. Should we rest? Amelia asked. We haven't had dinner yet either. We can take a break later. Let's eat while we are moving, Neo spoke. Elizabeth agreed with him. She whistled after standing at the seashore. Unlike Amelia's azure dragon that swam in the sea, Elizabeth's came from the sky. The clouds parted upon its arrival. The moonlight fell through the gaps, and the azure sea dragon descended gracefully. It had silver scales instead of blue scales, and was at least 5 times larger than the previous dragon Neo met. The dragon made a pleasing grunt when it saw Elizabeth and Amelia, and allowed them to caress its body. You can touch him, Amelia told Neo. Just as Neo was about to place his hand on the silver scales of the dragon, it snorted, and an invisible force pushed Neo back. Neo heard Amelia giggling beside him. Jerna doesn't like anyone besides us touching him. Amelia smirked and rubbed the dragon's belly to brag. Neo looked back at the dragon. For some reason, he could tell by looking at the dragon's eyes that if he tried to touch it again, it would crush him. He is my benefactor, Jerna. Don't treat him like that, Elizabeth said. The dragon's eyes widened. It looked at Elizabeth as if questioning the authenticity of her statement. Then, realizing her words were true, it looked at Neo and gave him a lick with a happy grunt. It lowered its head, allowing him to pat its head. Now allowed to touch the dragon, Neo turned to Amelia with a smirk. She clicked her tongue and turned away. After they climbed the dragon, Elizabeth commanded it to leave. The dragon took off into the skies. It went above the cloud of seas and flew freely in the air. The journey was uneventful. They passed over the clouds and the hurricanes, so there wasn't much to see. After they left the waters of Mermaid Country, Neo finally relaxed. Where are we going? He asked. Amelia will return to the Demigod Academy. As for me, I'm still not sure about it. What about you? Elizabeth said, "Where should we drop you?" Neo made a deliberate pause to make it look like he was uncertain. "I have to go to the academy, too." Amelia and Elizabeth didn't appear surprised for some reason. "But how about we go to the Divine Water Cave first? It would help us speed up our recovery." "Good idea. I'll give you the things you asked for there." Elizabeth agreed to his suggestion. "Wait, what?" Suddenly, Amelia looked at them wide-eyed. "What are you going to give him?" "I'm not letting you marry him." Elizabeth shook her head and spoke with a sorrowful voice. "But that was the deal. How can I, Elizabeth de Beaufort, turn back on my words?" Despite her expressionless face, Neo could see mischief hidden in her eyes. He could understand why she was teasing Amelia. Her reactions were just too cute. The banter between the mother and the daughter continued until they reached the Divine Water Cave. Before the dragon dived into the seawater, Neo's brows furrowed. He forgot to bring his diving gear. A smirk appeared on Amelia's face. "What happened?" "Can't breathe underwater, Mr. Exalted Demigod." Neo shrugged. He didn't feel bad about tricking her back then. After all, it was a matter of life and death for him. "Stay close to me." Elizabeth created a sphere of air before the dragon dove into the sea. The air bubble allowed him to breathe. They floated towards the underwater cave's entrance. "I'll enter first. Follow behind me," Elizabeth said, and changed the shape of the air bubble to cover only Neo. Just as she swam in between the coral reefs, a problem appeared. Her chest was stuck in the narrow entrance.